Alright, welcome back. So in our last video, we went and showed you how to make the circle part of our sunflower granny squares. So now I want to show you how to turn the circle into the square. So now moving on, what we're going to want to do is attach our green yarn. So we're going to take this and attach it into one of the chain 2 spaces. Okay. Then from there, what we're going to do is simply chain 3. Now I'm going to also, like in previous rows, work in my tail ends into this. Now from here, because our first chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet, from here what we're going to want to work on is yarn over and create, we're going to want to create 2 more double crochets. So yarn over, go into the chain space, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, yarn over and go through your last 2 loops to create a double crochet. And we want to make 1 more into there and then chain 1. So our first 3 is a double crochet and then 2 more, so we have a cluster of 3 in there. Now into our next chain 2 space, what we want to do is put 3 half double crochets into that space. So yarn over, go into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops. Now as we're coming off of a chain, it's a little bit difficult to get that first one, so just kind of got to work it a little bit. The second and third are easier. So yarn over, go into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over and go through all 3 loops, and then make your third and then a chain 1. Now into your next chain 2 space, we want to make 3 double crochets. So yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, yarn over and go through your last 2 loops. Now we want to put 3 of those in there. And then chain 1. All right, so we have that. Now into our next space here, what we're going to want to do is start off into this chain space. We want to put 3 treble crochets, also known, I've heard them called a triple crochet. So to do that, we want to yarn over twice, go into the space, and pull up a loop. Now you want to yarn over and go through your first 2 loops. Now we got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over and go through your next 2 loops, yarn over and go through your last 2 loops. Now we want to make 3 of those in there. And then we want to chain 2. And then we want to make 3 more treble crochets into that same space. Whoop, and I just pulled up my tails. And then chain 1. So here what we're doing is we're working down our side over here. We started big and then we had to work a smaller stitch, work bigger, And then the largest stitches to create a corner. Our corners always have a chain 2 for a granny square. So we went up, down, up. So we're adjusting for bringing up the height and everything to bring this circle into a square. Now we're going to continue down this side. So from here we want to, in our next chain 2 space, we want to do 3 double crochets. And then we're going to chain 1 because we need a chain space in between the clusters. And then our next little chain 2 space, we want to put 3 half double crochets. And then chain 1. All right, and now into our next space, what we want to do is put 3 double crochets. And then chain 1. As you can see, we did one side, so double crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and then we worked our corners, 3 treble crochets, 2 chains, 3 treble crochets, and then chain 1 in between along the sides. And then we work this side, doubles, half doubles, and then doubles. So now we want to make another corner right here. So we're going to have to work our corners, 3 treble crochets, a chain 2, and then 3 more treble crochets, all into the same chain 2 space. So yarn over twice, into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over your first 2 loops, yarn over your second 2 loops, yarn over, and your last 2 loops. And then you got your 3, so chain 2, and you want 3 more treble crochets to form that corner. And then chain 1. So now you can see we did the one corner and then the second corner, and it's starting to form up kind of a square there. So we want to continue working down and form the next side. So we want to put 3 double crochets into our next chain space. And then chain 1. And then into our next chain space, we want to do our 3 half double crochets. So yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over in all 3 loops for a half double. And then chain 1. And then we want to continue and do 3 double crochets. And then chain 1. Now we're here and we want to form up the next corner. So corners are from the circle, 3 treble crochets. And remember, you gotta yarn over twice to create those and only working 2 loops. And then you need a chain 2 in between the clusters because it is a corner, and then 3 more trebles. And then chain 1. So now here we've got 3 corners of it made. So now we need to go down this side of our piece. So into our next chain space, we need 3 double crochets. and then chain 1. Our next space needs 3 half double crochets, and then chain 1, and then this space needs 3 double crochets, and then chain 1. And now we just need to work our last corner here. So once again, corners for coming from a circle into a square. You need 3 treble crochets, and then chain 2, and then 3 more treble crochets, and then chain 1. Now we need to join them. So we want to slip stitch right into our 3rd chain of our first chain 3 of our round in order to join. Now here, because we worked with using stitch height in order to turn it from a circle into our squares. Okay. Now if you want to go ahead and piece them all together, to create an item, what it would be, because there's 2 chains into the corner, so you want to sew down the center seam. So you would match them up, only 1 chain of the corner, and that would come right down the seam, so everything should match up stitch to stitch. And you can go up and continue also. Say you want to sew all 4 of these, bring them along, and then you'd match up again to your the chain 1 on this side. So this chain 1 would count for this side, so you'd go right up through there, and the same thing across over here. You could use a variety of stitches in order to sew them together. I've used the slip stitch going down. That one actually, it gives more texture and depth to whatever you're doing, or you can use your darning needle and sew them through. That one makes more of a fine seam to all of them, so depending on how you want to seam for sewing those together. Now I just want to take a moment. We don't have to stop with just this size. You can actually continue it just like you would a regular granny square. Now for this, some people prefer, make your chain to start the next row, and they'll work right into this last one, which I'll show you. I am not too much of a fan of working back out of that area. It's not a look that I like, so I tend to not work it that way, but I know several people do enjoy and prefer to work it that way. Now another method, which I personally prefer, is simply, because we slip stitched on top of our first chain 3, so the first double crochet. Now we want to slip stitch into the next double crochet and then the next one over. So it kind of, now if you look very close, you can actually see those stitches, but it kind of hides it a little bit more. And then slip stitch into that next chain 1 space and start your chain 3. And then you just simply put 2 more double crochets into that space, and then a chain 1 because we're coming down the side, and then work into your next chain 1 space with 3 double crochets, because granny squares work into clusters of the 3. Chain 1, and just work them going down the side. And then for the corners, Simply, just like a standard granny square, you put 3 double crochets and then chain 2 because it is a corner, and then 3 more double crochets, and then chain 1, and then you just continue going down the side, just, you know, the same as we did over here. For every chain 1 space, you put 3 double crochets and then a chain 1, then corners just work just like a regular old granny square. 3 double crochets, a chain 2, 3 more double crochets, and then a chain 1. And you can actually take that and expand it as large as you want just by continuing that pattern, working around. I have seen that, my blanket that she had made that had just 1 central flower and then very large around it. I think it was probably 8-9 inches. So it really drew attention to the flowers that she had put into it because the rest was just blank. So that is an option that you can do for these also. I hope this was very informative for you and helped you out along the way. And I will go ahead and link some other patterns that I do have. I have video and available for sale in my store. If you'd like to help support me in that, by all means. They will be linked in the video description below. If you enjoyed this, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and subscribe so then you can also get links and free patterns every time that I post them. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day.